start to put tension on my string drawback, I was like, okay, I'm gonna smoke.
It's him. You can look at the horns when he's dead. I'm in the zone. Let the arrow go is perfect.
When they lose their front doors, that's how you know they're smoking.
Went about 5-10 more yards. He probably went 20 yards, a little stepped over, tried to get back up. I saw him pull up.
We rushed 4 meters rods that night. We got like 166 and something like that, and then the next day we came up to 163 even.
You're listening to the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table where we talk about the outdoors.
What's up, everybody? Another installment of the White Cat Outdoors podcast. And Nick was talking shit last week, saying that I don't help at all because he's been killing deer left and right. Tom killed last week. And I actually did kill last week, but Nick was still being a dirtbag just for fun. So it's a deer camp series, and it's my turn. So that's what it's about tonight.
So we're running 3 years where all three of us have contributed now.
Yeah.
Like, I was a little slow one year. We had to do a bonus episode in the late season. But 3 years in a row, all three of us have been able to contribute. So
yeah, we get it done.
It's wild. So Frank, this is your hunt. Kind of, I feel like I was involved.
I was gonna say we should probably start this in the morning because you and I were both acting like complete idiots in the morning.
Yeah. I didn't hear this.
Yeah, so
I didn't tell you what happened to me in the morning.
So I guess I'll start with
your
it because
your
mine
buffoonery started before mine.
So, opening day of gun, I take very seriously, and I like to get to bed early, and
not even a little bit.
I was in bed at wee hours of the morning. It was late, but anyways, Frank and I, during our rutcation, or tour day rut, if you will, Frank and I started hunting a new a new section of the property.
I had a stand there years ago.
Yeah, and you didn't kill out of it, and you ended up pulling it. It was that bad for you.
You were in the wrong spot, though.
Yeah, you were.
I never gave it a rut chance.
Yeah,
you were still in the wrong spot.
No.
Yeah.
You
were way off.
You pulled the stand. Anyways, so Frank and I decided for opening day of gun, we needed one guy on each side of the swamp. And that's what we were going to do. We can see each other, but there's like two separate hunts with a little bit of neutral ground in the center. Mm-hmm. So that's what we decided. We won't shoot across the swamp, but anything in the swamp is fair game. Mm-hmm. It's neutral ground, whatever. So I hike in, and I'm getting ready to do my first rifle hunt out of a saddle. So hiking in, I already had my tree picked out because I was there in bow season, and I was trying to be careful and everything because I had my gun, I got my platform, I got my sticks, everything, my backpack. So what I decided to do is I was going to be very, very cautious, and I was going to leave my gun and my pack on the ground, get my stand set up, and get my tether, everything set up. So all I had to do was climb back down, throw my pack and my gun on, climb up, and I'm in. So I did just that. But as I get to my top stick, I'm climbing up, and there was a fallen tree into the tree that I was hunting in. And so you have to push on the tree to move this fallen tree to get your lineman belt up. And with all of the snow and everything, I slipped on my stick and I dropped. But with the lineman belt, you fall a few inches and then you just slam into the tree. And when that happened, I reached down for my belt, which is below, so my arm's not up anymore, which caused my sling to slide down my arm. And when it the momentum of the sling hitting my wrist, it just flew off. Gun fell into about 1.5 feet of snow, and I looked down, and it's just sticking straight up. Plugged it right in the ground, and I was like...
Did you plug the barrel
or
the butt into the ground?
No, barrel. Oh, yeah, it was sticking in the ground,
Barrel first.
Barrel in. First time I've ever dropped my gun, and I was livid.
And I could see Nick across the swamp, and I see him get set up, climb up, then he climbs back down, then he climbs back up to get set, then he goes back down. I'm like, what is he doing over there? Because I don't know any of this is going on. He's far enough away that I can't see everything that's happening, but I keep seeing him in the tree and out of the tree over and over again. I'm like, what?
I'm like,
Was he wearing his big orange jumpsuit?
No, he didn't wear the big one. He was debating on it, but it was pretty cold and windy, so he went with
the wool.
Yeah.
But I was livid. Like, I was so pissed because I did it on purpose. Like, I was so careful.
Why didn't you use your rope?
Yeah.
He
forgot his bow
I forgot my bow rope.
What about your 3-fingered hooker that you were so excited about?
Also forgot it.
He was bragging about that all archery season.
Everything that I needed was not. I switched packs for rifle season because it just got more space for an extra sandwich and whatnot.
Now, if I had to guess, because I wasn't in camp to wake everybody up, you probably got up with just enough time to get dressed.
No.
I was the first one up. We were
sleeping. Up with plenty of time, though.
I got up, went in, woke them up, got dressed, and then we were in and playing. Like I was.
Yeah, we were not late.
Right, but you probably didn't have a morning cup of coffee, watch a little TV, slowly get ready to make sure everything's in order.
I mean, we sat around and had breakfast. Like it was
and you
not.
Still forgot all this stuff.
No, they were.
He didn't even have it.
Ah.
Yeah, like it wasn't like I was in a rush and forgot to. They were back at home.
Gotcha.
I took over the getting up early, Tom. Don't worry.
Did you get the coffee going?
No, Dad did.
I don't do that.
Dad got coffee going. So anyway, so I am beyond pissed in my tree, like just so mad. And so then I'm like at this point. So that's when I climbed back down. I actually basically like stood on my stick for like 3 minutes. Just like
what the fuck?
Just like hating myself. Like I can't believe I just did that. Like I've been hunting for 15 years and that was like a rookie move, big time.
Yeah.
So I am just beyond.
Mistakes can happen at any time.
It can. And what's funny is I almost grabbed one of those brute strap slings.
Those things you can't drop those.
No, and the only reason I didn't is because
your Bobcat.
No, I went and was going to grab it, but my dad had taken off the clip that feeds into the stud on my rifle. It was just the one that you have to like loop it through. So I couldn't, it was going to be cost, just going to be too much of an issue. So I was like, screw it.
You know what? I better just throw my gun out of my stand instead.
Yeah. So I climbed back down, grab my gun, and it is plugged. Barrel is full of mud. I'm like, that's cool.
Great way to start the morning.
So I'm like, I got a stick and I just basically like pushed it in just a tiny bit and then just blew into my barrel and it all came out in one big plug, like right through. And I was like, okay, that worked better than I thought. And so I cleaned it out as good as I could, blew down the barrel and looked down I put a flashlight in the action. So it was shining up, and I could look down and see that there was nothing blocking through the barrel. I could clearly see all the way to the bottom. I could see the rifling. I'm like, okay, that's okay. And then I look at the gun some more, realize that the scope had shifted, and I'm like, awesome, this is really cool. So I basically wasn't even going to shoot anything, but Frank was across the swamp. I'm like, well, I have to make it look good, pretty much. So I climbed back up.
Gotta put on a show for me.
So I climbed back up my tree, basically one-handed because I was not letting go of my gun. And I get back up there, and my platform is like not where it needs to be. I'm like sandwiched between two trees. Like it was just all bad. And then so I had to like stand on the side of the platform. Well, I didn't get it tightened down all the way because of the whole gun thing, and I kind of forgot that step. So the whole platform shifts on me, and then I'm like, all right, I can fix that. I'll just stand on the top, lift it up a little bit with my other foot, cam it down. Well, it dropped too much, and then I couldn't cam the platform back down, so I'm standing on like a 45. It was just one of the worst opening mornings of my entire life. So,
and I'm having to watch all this idiocy going on across the swamp.
Yeah. So finally, I'm like, whatever, this is it. I decided I was not going to shoot anything unless it was like 10 yards away. Like, because like I dropped it into snow. I'm like, it couldn't have bumped that bad. Like, if it's 10 yards away, like even if my gun's off 5 inches, it's still in lethal range. So that was basically what I was telling myself, but come to find out, I still didn't even want to shoot. Anyways, sitting there, and then a couple hours go by. I had seen a doe run across the swamp probably about 250 yards out, and was hoping she'd circle over to Frank, but she never did. And then I look up across the swamp, and I see a group of doe.
And this is where I start being an idiot.
Yeah, so I see a whole...
It was close to 10 o'clock at this point.
Yeah, about 10 o'clock, I see 4 doe coming down the hill, and one is a tank of a doe.
Monster.
Just an absolute nanny.
Like bigger than Nick's doe.
It was big. Probably the biggest doe I've ever seen on the hoof. It was
huge. Huge doe.
Unreal. Anyways, so I'm looking at these doe, and then I hear something, and I look over, and I'll let Frank take over from there.
So I'm sitting there, and I didn't see a single deer all morning, and it was cold. It was
snowing like crazy,
and the wind was ridiculous. And it was 10 o'clock. We'd been there for several hours. And I was like, I guess I'm just gonna call it a morning here. I'm gonna climb down and go back, eat something, have a sandwich, and figure out an evening plan. So I start packing up my shit, and every time I'm packing up, I'm always like looking at, like, I do it in steps. Like, I put all my stuff into my pack that I pulled out, and I take a minute, I look around, make sure nothing's coming in. I unscrew my hook, get everything, and put my fanny pack on, look around. Nothing's going on. So I was like, all right, time to get out of the stand. And I was in my mobile setup, so I was like, I got to unhook everything. I lift up my stand, I undo the strap, and as I undid the strap, and I didn't even have it like on both arms yet. I threw it over one shoulder, and then I hear Nick whistle. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and I knew he wasn't whistling just for fun. Like, obviously there's...
I don't normally just whistle tunes in my tree stand.
Yeah, so I'm like, obviously there's deer coming, and I turn, and they're 30 yards away. Like, they just came booking down the hill into the swamp and then turned right to me. And
they're, like, right behind Frank.
And I'm, like, hanging out of this tree with my stand half on my back, and I'm like, what do I do? Because they're right there. And I'm like...
I'm watching I can see all of this happening from across the swamp.
And
it's beautiful.
I'm looking around. I'm like, can I turn a certain way and lean against the tree and turn? I was like, this just isn't happening. So I stand there and watch this gigantic doe just standing there right in front of me, 30 yards, looking around. She walks around, does a couple circles, and I'm looking at Nick, and I don't know that he had destroyed his gun at this point. I'm looking across the swamp like, I know you can see these things. Like, shoot one. Obviously, I'm not gonna do it. So, and then he finally pulls his gun up, and he's looking. I was like, okay. And I'm like just waiting for the shot. Never happens. And she's standing right there, like,
she was probably like 80 yards from me, but 20 or 30 from you.
Yeah, and I'm like, why is he not shooting? And then takes off up the hill, and I finish climbing down. I walk over to him, and then I find out how his morning went. I'm like, so that's why you didn't shoot. So we just had a hell of a morning. It was all bad.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So Frank and I walked back up to camp, which that walk back to camp always seems so much longer.
Mm-hmm.
It's all uphill.
Yeah. And we actually decided, because the snow was so deep, we actually walked the road all the way to the top and back down the driveway instead of cut the corner.
Right.
But anyway, so Frank and I get back to camp, we eat lunch, and he's like, hey, I did bring another gun. Like, if you want to use my other gun.
Yeah, luckily I come prepared for things.
So I was like, dude, that'd be awesome. And he's like, I'm going to give you a lot of shit if you kill a gun or kill a deer with my gun. Like, you'll never hear the end of it. And I was like, yeah.
And then
right.
he tells me he's going to my. Well, no, he didn't go to my stand yet. We had a different plan. We put a plan together.
I was going to go to the tripod,
and I was going to go to my double. And
so I went to go drop Frank off down on the other side of the block, and we're ripping by the field, and it's like, there was 2 deer out in the beans. So I just keep driving, and we get past the field, and I look at Frank, and I'm like, I think we can stalk those deer.
He's like, what do you say we double down? And I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna do it.
He's like,
no problem.
I'm like, it's deep snow. It was super cold, so it was powdery. It wasn't loud. The wind was hitting us straight in the face, and we had to go through the corn stalks, which is making a bunch of noise. So any little noise we might make is covered and muffled by this corn. Mm-hmm. So we jump out of the truck. Frank goes and finds some shooting sticks, literal sticks to shoot off of. And we just start, we walked from the woods and then hiked through the field, and then got down kind of like duck walked a little bit through the corn. And at that point we realized I couldn't see the second deer, but Frank had seen it. I was about 15 yards behind him, and he's like, all right, let's back up. And then
we couldn't keep going the way because we weren't like in the corn. We were walking down the edge between the corn and the goldenrods. And if we would have continued the way we were going, we would have been made by that deer. So I was like, let's back up and circle up around the corn and come from the high side. And we ran into the same thing. We weren't going to be able to get a shot at both deer
from the same spot.
Yeah, we were going to have to split up in order to get a look at both of these deer at the same time. So, and the wind was perfect. Like it couldn't have worked any better. So Nick sets up. I was like, you just get set on this deer. Like, don't move. Set up right here. Lock in on her.
I knelt down and I just put the crosshairs right behind her front shoulders. She's sitting there feeding in the field, and I'm probably 70, 80 yards away. Probably 70.
Yeah.
Frank said, okay, I'm going to circle around, and I'm going to go set up on that other deer. As soon as I shoot, you shoot.
Like a lot of the times when they hear a shot, like unless they get shot, their first instinct isn't bolting.
Yeah,
usually
look around.
Yeah.
So we were banking on that happening. So I'm set up, safety off, finger on the trigger. I'm just waiting. As soon as I hear Frank's gun go, I'm popping. And Frank's gun goes off, and as fast as you could fathom, its chest was on the snow and headed the opposite direction it was standing. Like, never even got a shot off. I was like, did not expect that at all.
Yeah,
so,
and like I shot, and I immediately turn and look, and I see that deer run. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I thought this was going to be so perfect.
So I run to the other side of the corn, try and set up again, see if she stops. Mm-hmm. I was going to get a shot, and she never did. And then I see Frank pull up and shoot, but he thought his deer had taken off, but it didn't.
She runs to the edge of the field, and like I moved down. Like at first she dropped straight down, then she got up and started running. I'm like, oh, what the hell? I thought I smoked her. So I start moving down, and then she's just off the edge of the field, and she takes off running through the woods. I was like, oh god, and I can just barely see her out there, and I was like, what do I do? So I like just took a dumb shot. Like it was no chance of me hitting this deer, and takes off, and I'm standing there, and Nick comes up. He's like, what happened? And I was like, I went down and then got up and took off. So we start walking, and I was like, she's right here. Then we find blood. It's spraying out. It's 5 feet either side of where it was running. So I was like, oh, it's definitely done.
It's a dead deer, and we're just kind of talking.
And as we're talking about it, we look, and the deer's laying right there. I was like,
the snow was so deep when she fell.
She just disappeared into the snow. And it turns out there was another deer just in the woods. So 2 of them took off. We only saw 2 take off. I'm like, what the hell? But it was a third deer that we didn't know about. And yeah, she was smoked. So Nick really blew it on the double. We should have had it, no problem.
I just didn't want to shoot with Frank's gun.
Yeah, that's what it boiled down to. He didn't want me talking shit.
Understandable.
But yeah, so then Frank, I offered to help. He didn't want it.
Well, I wanted Nick to get in the and I had shot it right by where he was going to hunt. So I was like, well, you just go to where I was going to hunt and hunt my double, and then I'll just take care of this deer, and then I'll go find somewhere to hunker down for the rest of the evening. And we both ended up seeing a lot of deer that evening.
Oh, I had deer in front of me from about 15 minutes after I got in till dark. Mm-hmm. There was no big does. I didn't see any bucks, and it was just a ton.
And it's crazy because we were there the week before for
Ton of bucks.
we couldn't go one sit without seeing a shooter buck. It was just nonstop shooter, and a lot of other smaller bucks, and that was just a week before.
Yep.
1 week later, we saw one buck. I saw a spike, and
Yeah.
your dad never saw a buck. You never saw a buck.
But a ton of doe.
Yeah,
Like does
all day long, but never saw a buck. It was crazy what 1 week can do.
Yeah. But and then so we were all headed home, Saturday night. We're gonna go get Frank's deer cleaned up, and then Austin calls. You guys have all met Austin on the podcast, and he said, "Hey, I'm coming up to the cabin tonight. We're gonna do some hunting in the morning." And I was like,
I'm already on my
"Shit."
way
I'm
home.
like, I'm already on my way home.
We hadn't gone. We were only 5
Yeah.
minutes away from camp.
And I told Austin, I said, "Let me call you back." So I called my dad, and I was like, "Hey, Austin just called. He wants to come to camp. What do you say?" Because the deer was in my truck, and I was like, "What do you say?
Yeah.
I give this deer to you. You're just gonna take the hide off. It's not gonna be a big deal.
Yeah,
you guys care
it's
if
not
I
like
just
we're doing
stick up
everything.
here. It's gonna save me 2 hours.
Yeah.
If I just have to go home and then all the way back up.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Yep, sweet." So we pull over, switch trucks in the deer, and then I head back to camp. Met Austin up there, and same story for us the next day. Just tons of does,
No bucks.
no bucks, and we got even more snow Sunday.
I know we got another foot on Sunday.
It was
we got
I was
2
literally
feet over the weekend.
in the woods. It was waist deep.
Yeah.
With a property that was freshly logged, it got dangerous walking
Yeah.
through because I was literally in the waist deep in snow walking, and then you would just get hit in the knees by a log, and you're like, okay, I guess because you couldn't. It was just
Yeah.
flat. You couldn't tell what was what, and so that was annoying. We only hunted the morning, and my tracks were pretty much covered by the time I got out of the stand.
That's crazy.
It was nuts. I took I think it was my first tree stand selfie I took. It literally, I was in stand, I think at the time, I think I took it at 7:49. So I was in stand for maybe an hour, and I was completely white. I was covered in
Had
snow.
an inch of snow on you.
Oh, it was ridiculous. Because I looked at myself, I'm like, this is comical.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just got to take a picture of this. I was actually warm in the wool. You insulate really well with that stuff.
Yeah.
But it was just ridiculous. The only thing I had to do was just whatever way the wind was blowing, just turn my back
Yeah,
to
so
that.
it's not hitting you in the face.
Yeah. Other than that, it was good.
But it was a wild weekend. So Tom killed, I killed. Unfortunately, we were at different camps, so we weren't celebrating together. But it was a very successful opening weekend.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
When you're hearing this, we'll already be a week into rifle season in PA, so we're going to have a lot more, definitely going to have some big buck stories coming down the pipe.
Yeah. I'm trying to we got a special episode I'm trying to work in. I don't want to give names away yet because we haven't solidified it, but an absolute giant 8
Yeah.
hit the dirt by one of our buddies, and trying to just iron out the details. He wants to come on and everything, just trying to get the time right. But I mean, to me and pretty much anyone you would ever talk to, this is the epitome of what a giant 8 looks like.
Yeah.
It's got everything, and it's just can't wait for you guys to hear it. And we'll post it on the Instagram, but it's just an absolute giant.
No doubt.
So,
And we're going to have some more giants going down in PA rifle season.
Yeah.
And you're going to be hunting New York.
yeah, just say I'm not going to get any.
As
giants
you've said
in PA.
100 times, you're done in PA. You're tagged
I'm
out.
officially tagged out in PA. So that's
good
pretty
feeling.
neat.
But
This is-
before we wrap things up, I just wanted to give a shout out to our guy, John Arquilla.
Oh, yeah.
He was the first one to comment on the photo from last week's episode.
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks ago. So thank you for listening, and thank you for playing along.
You love to see it.
Yeah, that it made me laugh when I seen that comment come through. I was like, we were taking bets at the studio after we said it, and John, I'll be honest, you were a top contender on who we thought would be the first comment. So we appreciate you playing along and always leaving it in the comments for us. On that note, I guess we'll wrap it up there. By the time you're listening to this, like Frank said, we'll be 2 weeks into New York rifle and a week into PA, and you guys know us. We'll be getting outside.